Welcome back to another R&DW Adventures. I'm Darryl.
And I'm Renee.
We're here today at Bowlin Park in Troy, Michigan. Not to be confused with Detroit. That's about 9 miles that way. We're at, for people who know the area, we're at a roughly 16.5 mile. 8 mile being baseline, and Woodward is that way. So there's your markers for where we're at. And this is our fourth video on the Geocaching.com memory lane promotion. But unlike our usual videos on the subject, we're not finding caches today, we're replacing ones we've hidden. So this is actually the park where both of us hid our first caches, not at the same time.
Not at all.
Several years apart. My first cache here is long since archived. Yours is still active and can use some maintenance.
Right. Yours was where?
Mine was back here, and we'll talk about that in a little while.
Okay.
But it's also in the park, not far from where yours was. But we figured that this would be an appropriate thing to talk about for the millionth hide, which was rather controversial, actually.
Why?
They didn't know which cache was actually the 1 millionth geocache hide, because there's all kinds of complexity that goes into that, including when was the cache actually published, which one made it, which one was hidden as the 1 millionth active cache. But there's the key, is it's active geocache.
How many think that they're
There's at least 2 that I know of that claim the honor of the 1 millionth hide. I believe one was in Europe and I think one was in Australia.
Wow, okay.
But no one knows for sure which cache was the 1 millionth hide, so we'll let them both claim it.
Fair enough.
But we need to head back to the car, grab the cache for replacement, and head out on the trail. So while we're doing that, we'll pass you off to our buddy Scott, who's going to tell you about his first hide.
Hey Darren Rene, we're talking about first hides today, and believe it or not, my first hide still in the wild. It is still out there. You can go and find my first hide from 2008. It is called 7th Inning Stretch. I don't have a GC, unfortunately. It's called 7th Inning Stretch. It's in Buffalo Grove, Illinois, the suburb where I live, and it is at a ball field, and it is on the bleachers of a ball field. And you got to remember that this inadvertently, let me back up here. This inadvertently is an FU hide, and I hope everybody knows what that means. If not, it's a very difficult hide. Didn't plan on it being that way. It's a nano. It's a nano on bleachers. The difference is that I was like really brand new to the game when I hit this first one. And you go to bleachers and you go somewhere and you know where to look. You look at certain, hiders usually hide them in the same place every time. Well, I didn't know the same places, so I hid it where I'm supposed to hide it, where I wanted to hide it. And it's actually in the middle, at the top, in the back. It's a real easy find, but it's a very difficult find because people don't look there, and people, they go to the front, they go under the skirts and whatnot, and it's a really, I guess it's an FU hide inadvertently, and so I get a lot of DNFs on it. Funny enough. And I know it's always there, so I'll get like 3 DNFs and then a find, and then a find, and then like 2 DNFs and a find, and then 4 DNFs and a find. In full disclosure, I think I've replaced it 2 or 3 times in the 12 years it's been out. It sometimes it goes missing. It really actually does. Somebody doesn't replace the magnet correctly or something like that. It has gone missing a couple times, but it's been a while since it's gone missing. I think almost a year since it's gone missing this last time. Still in the same spot it's always been, but no one seems to find it. So my first hide, inadvertently an FU hide, a very difficult hide. I didn't plan it that way, but it's still active. So I love my first hide. I'd never get rid of it. So 7th Inning Stretch.
Yeah, so it is always nice to have that first hide close to home, and in this case, it was about a mile and a half from where I was living when we each had placed our caches here.
Oh, that's true.
Years apart, but it was...
We stayed in the same spot.
Well...
Till now.
I moved from an apartment on in one complex to an apartment in another complex, but it was still like hundreds of feet, not like miles or anything.
Well, now, but our condo's only like 2 miles from your apartment.
Yeah, and now the new condo is like 2.5 miles from that last apartment.
Fine.
It's actually more driving. But in any case, your first hide was right there. which we just had to replace because this is the Decon container we use.
And the container's actually fine itself for 4 years. The container itself is really good. It was overstuffed and a little wet inside. When we found it, it wasn't really closed all the way.
Well, it wasn't closed at all, and we do have the video will pop in here of us replacing it, or well, of you replacing it. But I'm surprised because the log said that the cache was cracked, as I recall.
Right, and
there's no issues here.
I think they couldn't get it closed because there's too much stuff in it.
Yeah, it's overstuffed.
Well, either way,
And
we replaced it with a brand new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it closed before too.
All new cache. But yeah, these Decon containers are nice. They don't always do well in this climate because it is a humid climate. We have the freezing.
Right.
Plastic like this can crack.
Or swell and then crack.
And if it's in the sun, it can get brittle. But these are such cool, handy containers. Great size. Yeah, if you get a real one, it's got the clip right there, so it just clips right to the fence.
It was perfect. It was very easy to change. It was very easy to place.
Fairly easy to maintain. It is not a watertight seal, so it's important that anything inside be waterproof.
Like
so
a Ziploc or
we
zip
put it
top
in
or
a
whatever.
Ziploc bag,
Yep.
and that's about it. But your cache here was mostly because it was convenient. You didn't really know.
I really didn't know much about it, and yours was really close by. You lived really close by.
And I was archiving mine.
Right.
To give you room. And our problem in this area is the saturation.
I mean, it's a good problem to have that there's so many caches, but the problem is there's so many caches.
And we don't even know where all of those finals are because a lot of them are puzzle caches that we haven't solved because in many cases we can't figure out how to do it. One case it requires a Windows app that I've never been able to get to work right.
Right.
So it's tough to figure out where all those caches
There really aren't that many that we haven't found, but the ones we haven't found are the puzzles.
And one of the problems we have here is the caches do have some sustainability, I guess is the right word. They stay.
Right.
We don't have
Except
a whole lot of caches to find. Well, I still have active caches.
No, I meant that one.
Yeah, well, I've had a couple of caches, both damaged similarly. But the nice thing about the new movement of refreshing the game board is the pay attention to your caches. If they've been out for a while, like a year or two, and they're not getting the find rates, take a look at it, see if it's worth preserving, or is it better to archive that and move it on for someone else, place a new one yourself, whatever. And we did a number of shows on that on GeoGearheads, including one with Brian Roth, who's currently the president of Groundspeak. But I'm going to take you guys to see where my first cache was hidden, and I even have a container similar to the one I used for my first cache. So while we walk over there, why don't we show you this video from Seemyshell.
G'day guys, Renee, Darryl, g'day. You just caught me hiding the cache. The memories of my very first hide. Well, it was a nano, only very small, magnetic, little logbook, you know what? And I hid it right next to my house so I could keep an eye on it. Because hiding your first cache is like your firstborn child. It's like a little baby. Those were the days. Over 100 of those now. Thanks guys for the memories.
So this is why I had to archive my first cache. It was right about there, and we can still see the debris left over from the log that housed this container. So this container was hidden back here in a tree that had fallen. It was hollowed out. It was a perfect spot for a nice high quality container. This was actually a Pelican. This is a knockoff, I think. That was an official Geocaching.com container. Yeah, official geocache from Geocaching.com. So I like this one. This one's kind of nicer, but the one that I used for what I called first Geo Savings Alone was a much higher quality container. It was watertight. I had the silica packs in there to keep the coins dry because it was a travel bug hotel.
That's cool.
The whole theme was I had made the logbook where you had the like bank deposit and withdrawal slips. So you wrote in which geocoin you're depositing and or which one you're taking out.
Oh, very cool.
I was very proud of it. It took me a long
That's a really
time,
nice one.
but it didn't ever work out the way that I wanted.
Just because of where it is?
It's far enough off the beaten track. You know, it's a little bit of a hike to get back here. There's lots of bugs. So it's not really convenient for getting here. And I really expected it to be more trafficked because I-75 is right over here.
Right.
Within a mile.
More people probably come to the park to do the other park stuff.
Well, and there were no other caches really in the park at the time. There's one other cache. So you didn't have a whole lot of caches. It's a travel bug hotel. The whole point is come and go. There were a few people who actually used it as intended, but not many. And a lot of it, I think, is it's just too far off the freeway. So something else to think about when you place your hide. But I did archive it because the tree had fallen down. Where that mattress was where the campfire had been. Someone was having little bonfires back here. So obviously, this isn't a location that was of any use to anyone anymore. So that's our stories of our first hides. Make sure to drop yours in the comment below because you could win a trackable like this. All you have to do is leave us a comment with your story, and if you're randomly selected, we'll let you know and send us your address and we'll send that along. And it has to be by, let's see, that's going to be July 15th. And then we've got this one for you to discover.
And that tracking number is ML8XR3. ML8XR3. Discover it and have fun.
So thanks for watching, thanks for sharing your stories, and especially thanks to scottberks and Seemyshell for their stories. Click the subscribe button over here so that you get notified of any of our content when it goes live. And then also over here is our geocaching playlist. Click on that to get more content just like this.